racism in general. And maybe it's unfortunate to say, maybe it's not, but it's just like I expected. We live in America.
Right.
So like I'm not surprised at too much of anything that I see. I think it was interesting because it was on the heels of everybody being quarantined.
Right.
I think one of the most profound things that I saw about that was that it took no sports, no vacations,
Right.
no live concert events,
No distractions at all.
no distractions for people to really be present to what's happening in this country, because there have been people doing the work.
Exactly.
There have been people screaming at the top of their lungs. There have been people bringing to light the injustices that happen in this country. And due to everyday life or people's perception of what they can or can't change, for whatever reason, it's largely in part been progressing and falling on deaf ears at the same time.
For sure, man. It's I mean, I feel sort of indifferent emotionally about it. I know that there is work to be done, like you're saying. There's people who are at the forefront, and then there's people like me who are the supporters of those, you know, who are on the front line and are doing the work. So, like, when you saw George Floyd, the video of George Floyd, like, what went through your mind?
I mean, I haven't even fully seen it.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, we're at this point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what happened.
Right.
And I've seen the clips that led up to it. I mean, I guess I've seen the officers with pressure on his neck, right? But my understanding is that they were on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Did I watch the 8 minute and 46 seconds?
Oh, no,
I
of
did.
course not. Yeah,
Nah.
of course not.
And so, yeah, I guess my thinking is, as I see it, and it's the outrage. Yeah, it's just like, again.
It's like what I do. I sympathize with that because at first, when I saw it, I was thinking about like, man, here come this shit again. You know what I mean? And like you were saying about how now we don't have any distractions. Now everybody can tune into it. Now everybody's outraged, and now we can't deny. You know what I mean? It's undeniable now. So I mean, with that, and how it affected our culture, how it affected, you know what I mean, just the movement, and you know, it sparked everything. Do you think that this all happened in divine timing?
I mean, I personally believe everything is divine timing.
Okay.
You know, we've been moving in a direction for good or worse. You know, that's someone's perspective. Since we were brought over here on boats, and before that, like, you know, the Native Americans being here and their interactions with Europeans. So like everything that's happened in this country has been moving in a trajectory that has led us to here, right? It's a boiling point of sorts. It is a climax that we're continuously moving towards. I think that, yeah, it can, like how people say you can be on the right side or wrong side of history. It's just like one of those things where you gotta decide which side are you gonna be on.
That's do you have any Caucasian brothers and sisters friends that you call friends, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like, have you talked to them about it?
As I'm sure a number of people have, I got those calls about, you know, what's trying to make sense of it in the midst of it happening, and which is interesting because like there's this whole train of thought that is like, I don't got time to educate people, which I think is, I understand it, and so everybody has the right to preserve their own energy in whatever way that they need to. And for me, I think somebody needs to educate people. Like, to leave people to their own devices to educate themselves, obviously it's not the answer, because they would have did it already.
Exactly.
Right? And so I think for people who are teachers, people who have a good sense and grasp on what is happening, what has been taking place in this country, I think it's important that they do so.
Them exclusively, like
them, and or if you don't, direct them to the people who do. You know, direct them to the scholars, direct them to the activists, direct them to the people. It's 2020.
Right.
There's like a million Instagram pages of people who are speaking truth to power.
For sure. Like, I mean, of course there's the fluff, and there's people that are just regurgitating what the truth really is. You know what I mean? Except for having a precise opinion, original opinion about how they feel. Mm-hmm. This one woman, she posted something I saw it on Instagram, and she went through this whole just very informative, and I think and I believe that it was based in truth, because she had evidence to support. But then at the end, she made a claim to say that white people in white America should be lucky that we're just looking for equality versus vengeance. Do you think that that's
honestly?
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the person's disposition, because is Black America ready to go to war with America?
Exactly.
Like the biggest superpower on this planet in terms of military force and strength, and like what you're seeing in the street. Like, are they lucky?
Right. Right.
Maybe, maybe the casual civilian, but we also live in a country, as we were just talking about, where the citizens have guns. Like, are you ready? If that's the route you want to take, and that's not to deter anyone, because I do believe there are certain times and places for certain revolutions to have a certain face and a certain spirit. And do you know how to shoot a gun? Do you have adequate healthcare professionals to assist your comrades who are casualties of this war, or who get hit when you decide to go there? Like, do you have a stockpile of ammunition? Do you manufacture ammunition and guns? So what happens when you run out of guns?
Right.
It's just a number of things that.
That's a good point, because something that I have expressed to friends of mine is like, we're not ready to pick up arms against superpower. For one, like, do you know how to survive without civilization? Do you practice a martial art so that you can defend yourself adequately, that, against people who this is what they do every day?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then again, do you have a weapon?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like, if you can't do any of those things, or you're not doing all those things, you're not ready to go to war. There's this quote that if you're seeking peace, get yourself ready for war. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, and it seems like for the longest, when at the height of this thing, I thought that they were trying to kick off a race war. You know what I'm saying? Or we're building
race war has been going on.
You know what I'm saying? But now, full blown, now it's out in the street now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And this is something that's happening every day. You know what I mean? We got to go outside knowing that
the potential for mass harm is great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I felt like we were leading into that, and now that it's kind of died down, I still think that it's like still on the cusp.
But that's a part of the problem.
What?
So from my observation, it dying down, like, it never dies down. One, because we react a lot. We're reactive in our action, right? And so it's also predictable how we will react. So anytime anybody wants to kick it up, you know what I'm saying, as we're seeing with the claims and the findings of agent provocateurs, or people who are benefiting from this happening and being, infiltrating certain movements and organizations, and which has been happening. But like, at any moment, it's it goes to the point of we were talking about martial arts and being ready. You know, like it's one thing to be ready on a military level when we're talking about physical force, but even at that level, it's a thinking game. Like the war we're in is a spiritual war,
right?
And it's a war that is very mental, right? That I think we should continue to be preparing for, as well as being ready to defend yourself if this beast shows his head in a way that is known too.
So like you were speaking about, you said something about the spiritual war. So obviously you believe in a deity, right? You believe in God.
Yeah,
correct.
I believe in God.
Would you care to share what do you practice? What religion or what non-denomination is? Just something like spirituality?
So my mother is Hebrew Israelite.
Okay.
My father is a Senegalese, but he's Muslim, practices Islam. So I have a sensibility to
like
the Abrahamic religions. I'm also aware, just from studies of others. I look at those things as
Chris, can you close that door? Just close that door.
I look at those things as man-made constructs, and ultimately, us as a creation is the evidence, the manifestation of the Creator. I think there are too many things that are just divine. You know, I think there are, to say it another way, I think there are a number of paths that lead you to our Creator.
So there's no one right way.
I think there are right ways for certain people.
Right. But no one size fit all, so to speak.
I don't know if we found it. If we found it, I think we'd all have it on.
Like
maybe,
because I know some of my family members and we talk about this, just having this perspective, an agnostic perspective on what we believe and don't believe. Like I personally, being a studier of astrophysics and the sciences, right? I enjoy those for the evidence, and not evidence, but how they make the world make sense around me. Not so much of like what it says about religion or like how religion is, it's contradicting itself, or nothing like that. Just helping me understand the world that I live in. And I think Neil deGrasse Tyson said it best when they were gearing up. I don't know where they are with the project. They're putting this huge telescope on a mountain in Hawaii. And they were trying to petition to get the locals to buy into it, because his argument was, because he was brought on a panel to talk about it, Neil deGrasse Tyson, he was saying that the sciences help us understand what's out there so that we can better understand what, in short, what God is, or what he's doing, or understand why we are here. It gets us closer to that. It's not so much as it's going to replace these things. It just helps us understand. And for me, it makes me more grateful that I'm here. It shows me how small I am. You know what I'm saying? It shows me how everything living has God in it.
One of the illest things I've heard from Neil deGrasse Tyson that I think ties in is we, as humans, know enough to think we're right, but don't know enough to know when we're wrong. And I think when we talk about the scope of what we're talking about, like religion and God, it's faith-based. These are faith-based trajectories, right? So it requires you to believe in the unseen, right? Which I don't think it's not problematic to me. I believe in the unseen. I believe there's a number of factors and things. I mean, you just look at gravity, and like I don't see it, but it's real, right?
It's definitely real.
And so. Yeah, and I think those are when I speak about like it being a spiritual warfare, or a spiritual battle, if you subscribe to those, it's like how do you how do you bring out the best of the path that you subscribe to?
Right.
Like, if you're a Christian, like, how do you take those principles that you subscribe to, and how do they relate to this time?
Okay. So do you think that because human beings can be so strong-minded in what they believe, and really taking it and making it a part of who they are, sometimes we get so caught up in it that we can't see anything else. We're not willing to broaden our spectrum. Like, I'd like to study different like religions. I don't like to call them religions, but faith-based doctrine, like the Quran. I was in Turkey and I read the Quran. Right, it was one of the most amazing books, that I've read. And Jesus is the most quoted man in that book. You know what I mean? So just seeing different perspectives, and like we were talking about Japan, like their 90% of their country is agnostic, and they virtually have no crime. They don't have any guns. You know what I'm saying? The police don't carry guns, and they don't steal. And I've seen that from my own. Like, so when we're here and we have so much religion and we have so many things different that's wrong with our society. You know what I mean? Whether it be crime, whether it be black on black crime, whether it be gun violence, or the white collar crimes. We have all these things here that are quote unquote wrong, and we're supposed to be so faith driven and so have such a moral compass. But you get somewhere that's across the pond somewhere, and they're agnostic, and being agnostic, knowing that you really don't know what you don't know what it is, and they're more loving and accepting of each other, and and moving in a direction together.
So I think,
you know what I'm saying. So it's like, what is that?
The distinction to make there is that the presence of religion doesn't always equate to a moral compass.
Right.
To ethics, to
right.
to so like just because in the name of Christ, like because his country is founded in the name, or it's supposed to be a Christian nation, doesn't mean that it follows its own principles. It's a very hypocritical place.
Right.
I think in terms of agnosticism.
Yeah.
I think something very powerful happens in any area of life when you come into it with I don't know, and I'm comfortable with not knowing.
Right.
Right, because the alternative of that is pressure, it's stigma, it's I should know this, I have to know this, right? And it's okay. There's some things that just out of your reach. Like, you don't have to fill in the holes just because you don't know. You
don't have to bother yourself with things that are out of
and it allows you to see all options for what they are. Knowing that I don't know means that I'm one step closer to finding out what it is. Right? Yeah,
for sure.
Without getting too deep.
Yeah. No, because I can talk about that forever. To be honest, for real, because I'm raising a son. I think about these things. Like, what am I going to teach him? You know what I mean? Do I want him to believe in God? Do I want him to go to church? Do I want him to, you know what I'm saying, to subscribe to Christianity? You know what I'm saying? And the thing that I come up with was, especially living the life that I've lived, is like, I want him to make the choice for himself. Like, I want to give him the tools that he needs to survive, but I want him to make the choice for himself what he wants. But then being a studier of what do you call that doctrine? Not religious doctrine, but it's a term for it. But anyway, like, having studied that, like, it says that you should train a child up the way he should go. So my thing is like, what is the right way that one should go? You know what I'm saying? Like, who determines that? You know what I mean? I know we know what's in the Bible, and we know what's what's right and wrong, because that's clear. It's black and white. What's right and wrong in society. You know.
I mean, is it subjective or is it not?
See, that's the thing. I struggle to say that it is or it isn't. You know what I mean? Because we're only one circumstance away from being completely euphoric and happy, and you know what I'm saying. And then we're one situation, circumstance away from being, you know, completely depressed or doing some of the most heinous crimes.
So you know I think you said it you prefaced it with how you want your son to be raised. Like, you want your son to decide for himself. Yeah. And so in connection with training a child up in the way that you see best fit for him is for him to decide for himself. And I think
because it's I don't want to say that I just want to make sure that I'm putting my best foot forward with raising him. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And not knowing what the right way is. Because obviously there's some skill that you need to have to live in America, right? You need some certain amount of skills and intelligence, and you know, just to operate, you know, which is there's a base there, but like to thrive and to
value
succeed,
system.
Yeah, a value system.
Well, I mean, when we talk about religions as a value system, I mean, they all pretty much say the same thing,
right? For sure.
I mean, I think, you know, in terms of what you were saying, in terms of like we kind of know good or bad.
Right.
I mean, that's, to me, that's like a label to label something necessarily good or bad, because it's so subjective to the situation.
Right.
And I feel like I do think it is important to be around people that genuinely and authentically have a value system that is aligned with yours.
Right.
And so whether that be someone who is a practitioner of Islam, whether it be someone who studies the Bible, the Torah, you know, I think it's about being with like-minded people. And ultimately, you know, the Christian faith is largely about free will.
Think so?
Yeah, free will. I mean, that's what it you know, it boils down to.
Hey, you think there's a such thing as free will? I mean, like,
is there a such thing as free will?
Like, because there's one thing to believe that your steps are ordered, right? That you are moving into a direction no matter what happens, no matter your choices. Everything is already laid out. That doesn't seem like free will to me. That just seems like your everything was ordained, and there's no choice that you can make that's going to change that. So like, how is that even remotely free will? You know what I'm saying? So like, for me, that doesn't, if you believe in that, then no, that's not free will. But I feel like things become free will once you start to think with your own mind, and you start to have opinions about how you feel about yourself, and you find yourself, what it exactly is that you want out of your life and how you move. And once you come up with those attributes, I guess, and you operate out of that value system that you've created for yourself, reprogramming your mind, because we're all taught things from the time that we're birthed and up until, you know, you're out of your parents' house and now you're on your own. So once you figure out what it is for you, I feel like then that's when you acquire free will for yourself. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, what do you think, if you had to say what free will, I mean, I guess I kind of defined it for myself, but like, do you think that that's a real thing? Like, you have free will?
I mean, I think it requires you, I guess, to consider free of what, right? So, I mean, you have the freedom as a human being with agency over yourself to not pay taxes.
Exactly.
Right? But there are repercussions in the country for not paying taxes.
Yeah.
Right? So just because there is a consequence to every action doesn't mean that you don't have the freedom of choice
Right.
Now, it does mean that your freedom of choice is being coerced. It is being influenced, which, I don't got the answers for everything.
Yeah, I don't think any of us do.
Yeah, I think you just make the best choices in situations that you can. I think that's what's important. Like you said, critical thinking. I think the ability to think for oneself, make choices for oneself, giving the situation that you're in. I mean, because that's the most we can do, take it a day at a time.
Yeah.
I think wisdom is preparing for the next day knowing it isn't promised, right? So all things considered, planning. I mean, how many people had plans for 2020?
Bruh.
And then all this hit,
Man,
know? So, like, I think you just...
Yeah, and you were saying something.
This is also something I think of, too,
a
philosophy that I carry. I think, like, so when we dream, right?
Okay.
Like, you have complete free will, especially if, like, you could lucid dream. Like, you're in control of everything in that realm, right? And I feel that this world works exactly the same, but there's a friction between what can actually manifest in this world because you're not the sole controller of it. So it requires multiple people, right, to be on one agenda, to be on one accord, to be of one mind, and things will change.
Yeah, and
I think we'd be surprised at what we could accomplish.
That's a good point, man. You dropping gems right now, man. I'm trying to remember everything for when I, when I decompress later. Like, but no influences, man. You're an artist through and through. You know what I mean? So, what are some of your biggest influences to your process, to your work?
Life, the people around me, things I'm feeling, the vision I have. I mean, everything. Like, I'm just so grateful at all times and, like, open to be inspired by any and everything, whether it be a podcast that I'm listening to about business or art or something just random, I think that's the excitement of life. Like, everything has a spark of inspiration in it.
Right, for sure.
If you're open to it.
Yeah, because that's one thing that I've been battling with people, because I'm very empathetic, right? And I want so much for people sometimes that they don't want for themselves, and that kind of hurts me sometimes, especially if it's somebody I really rock with, and to see them not striving for what I think subjectively they should be striving for, it provides I guess a strain on the relationship. So, like, when you have influences on people, like, how far do you take it before you decide, like, okay, this is not a healthy, and we're getting into relationships now. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you have influences, right? But those influences sometimes are not supposed to be there. You know what I'm saying? They're there for the life of their influence, and then they're supposed to be gone.
I saw this. I was listening to Karen Civil speak with Queen Afua, and she was talking about Nipsey Hussle and just how much of a great job he would do in empowering the people around him, based on what it is that they wanted to do, right? Yeah. So if like I think you see it with parents all the time that want their children to be like a doctor or a lawyer or something that they want to push on their children for them to be, right? And it's like as a child when someone pushes something on you that you don't want,
exactly,
it's like you just reject it. But like,
I know that too well.
For someone who gives you like what it is that feeds your spirit, like that's priceless. Like, that's useful.
It is, man. It's
because people gonna do what they want to do anyway.
Exactly. Like, okay, so
and that's free will.
The definition of free will. But no, if you like in relationships, because I know we're talking about marriage and what I mean, cohabitating, like, and you're moving into that direction. So, like, what is your biggest reason for seeking out that kind of relationship, a committed relationship with someone? Like, what are you? Because I know people do it for different reasons, but like, what is it for you?
So I have a desire, whether it be biological, whether it be programming, to have a family. And not that I don't have a family now, because I do have a family.
You want your own family.
And I don't even know if that's the right terminology. Like,
you don't think
just
so?
thinking about like my own. Like, I mean, I don't own a child. I don't own my wife.
Right.
You know, like, is it my family? Is it our family?
I'm glad
you know,
said that. I feel
like,
that
it's just family. I want to continue family. I want to play my role in continuing family.
You feel more responsible than possessive. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
And I even like how I just said, like, continuing family, right? Because that's another thing too. I was just reading Bell Hooks' All About Love that I was explaining before, New Visions, and she speaks about how important, you know, the adage of like it takes a village to raise a child, and she speaks about the importance of community and family, and how in this capitalist structure, this patriarchal structure that we've gotten into, we've gotten further and further away from those guards and those benefits that come with large communities, right? In terms of raising productive human beings. And I think, I think it's,
How do you think capitalism has changed that structure or manipulated it? The family adage that you were talking about.
I mean, even to what you just said earlier about, like, it was inherently there. And you didn't exactly say it because you said, and you're growing up until you're out of the house. But I think capitalism is largely in part of why, you're 18, you got to get out of my house. Right. If you ain't paying no bills around here, like, all right, it's understandable to a certain point, like, there should be especially like you graduated high school, all right, so what are you doing next? Like, what form of responsibilities are you going to accept, right? But I also don't think that equates to, like, get out my house. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, that's, you know, like,
that's just...
It's very Western.
It's definitely programming. But I think in regards to, like, I remember this Netflix documentary I was watching, Jiro dreams of sushi. So he's this top sushi maker, right?
Okay.
And he was talking about, you know, how Westerners grow up versus, you know, Asians or Easterners, whatever you want to call them. He was like, most Westerners have the option to come back home, and that's why so many of us fail, because you have a safety net. He was like, in his case, and he was speaking from his perspective and his experience, he had no option but to succeed. You know what I mean? So, like, when you left your Asian mother and father, like, you had to fend for yourself. Like, you had to succeed or else. You know what I mean? So what do you think about those two different dynamics? You know what I mean? Do you think that, you know,
I think
it's something that we can, you know, apply, I guess, to, you know, like, our children? Or
when I hear that, what is failure?
True.
Is one question.
Facts.
And then also, you know, is it supposed to be dangerous?
I mean, just living is dangerous.
I mean, to the point of, like, you have a safety net. Like, should we not have a safety net? Like, in what type of drive is, you know what I'm saying? So, like, like, America is it's a hamster wheel, you know? It's like, get out there, continue to make money, you know, provide for you. Like, if we built off of what already existed, and like I said, continuing family, like, what has the family built? Like, there's already something in place, it already exists. But when you detach yourself from it on to be a nucleus of a family, then it's like you're starting from scratch. Right? You have less cooperative resources, right? And so it's like,
and I know most of black families in America are like that. Like, I know I was itching to get away from the crib, you know what I mean, at 18, you know what I'm saying, but made some crucial mistakes because I was so thirsty to leave. You know, I wasn't thinking things through. I just wanted to get out of a situation. So I think what you're saying is just having, morphing that belief, I guess, into something that's, okay, you can leave when you're ready to fly, you know, on your own.
And I also think it's mentality in what you teach, because someone could also have someone could have the same drive, knowing like, all right, I'm gonna bet it all. I mean, that's what a lot of Caucasian people in this country do. I'm gonna risk it all because I know my parents got me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to bet it all because I know I have a safety net.
Right.
You know, like, so there are two extremes. It's like, I gotta succeed because I don't have a choice.
Right.
And like, I have no choice but to succeed because I'm gonna have every opportunity to continue to try until I do.
Those are facts, and I think because of everything that's happening right now, I think Black America is going to be put in a better position to do that for their families. I know people for a fact right now that have made more money on their unemployment than they have made on their real jobs.
Which says something.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
it says a lot.
You feel me? Like, it's like, what is really capitalism? Like, there is money to give people to pay every bill that they need. Like, it's always been there, and we've always known it. So it took a virus and it took other circumstances for us to get in this place where now we are, like, the government's hand has been forced to help its citizens so that we all can be great again. You know what I mean?
So the beginning of 2020, I adopted and began tapping more into what does minimalism look like in my life, right? Yeah. And so in clothes, like, I chose some all around durable, you know what I'm saying, joints, couple pair that I could continue to wash, you know what I'm saying, shoes that I grew up on, you know what I'm saying, from my days that I really rock with the 95s, you know what I'm saying, and the merch that, like, either I've created or the guys have created, like, very simple.
Less to think about. Right,
and I bring that up because in business there's this term called sufficiency, right? And so sometimes people say that, like, they're ramen sufficient. Like, I have enough for my business to continue to operate, pay all my bills, pay everybody I need to, and eat ramen. Like, are you satisfied with that? There's this book called The Personal MBA, which I recommend to anyone as someone who's taking a master's program in business. Like, this book is a very great entry point to a lot of key terminology. It's by Josh Kaufman. And there's a parable in it where a businessman goes off the coast somewhere to an island where he meets a man that's a fisherman. And he sees how much the fisherman is bringing in fish, and he stops him to talk to him, and he's like, yeah, you know, like, I really enjoy my life. You know, I see my wife, I go walk, I play chess, you know, his quality of life that he has, right? This very simple way of living. And the businessman doesn't get it. He's like, yo, like, all them fish you just brought in, like, you could do this, take out a loan, do this, come back, and, you know, get a boatload of fish and then sell them, and then the fisherman's like, all right, so scale. And he's like, so what would that require me to do? And he's like, well, first you'd have to leave here, you know, you have to make connections, do this, woo, and then at 40, 50, you can retire. And then he was like, and what do you suppose I do when I retire? It's like, I don't know, spend time with your wife, walk, fish, like the same things that he's doing.
Right.
So I think in capitalism, it requires, and I think just in life, a knowledge of self. It requires you to actually, which I think a lot of times we don't, like, what do you actually need, right? And what is a want? My mom used to always tell me growing up, like, you old enough for your wants not to hurt. And so, like,
whoa, mom, just wait, unpack that for me.
So, like, when I want something, you know, like a child, I mean, it's set up. You at a grocery store, you go in the checkout, all the goodies is right there.
Advertised right there,
and, you know, as I grow older, I understand more and more what she's saying. Like, she don't have a budget to just shell out every time I want something, you know, but she's my nurturer, she's my protector, she's my caretaker in this instance. And her job, her responsibility is to take care of my needs, you know, and, like, to deprioritize needs. Like, I might have been asked for something, it might not have been gum, it might have been the Xbox when it first came out. Now, me having an Xbox and us not having food in the fridge, she not doing her job, you know what I'm saying? So, like, I'll get over not wanting an Xbox, but I'll understand because I have food in the fridge. You know what I'm saying? That's how I interpret it now as I'm older.
I feel you, man. And man, you said you've been dropping some heavy gems, man. A lot of stuff that, consequently, I've been thinking about just as a husband and as a father. But we're coming up on our time, and there's something I want to ask you. Here at the Art Live Life podcast, we try to shell out your reason for doing what you do. You know what I'm saying? ART being an acronym for a reason to live life, right? So, all right, thank you. So what would you say is, if you have a single reason or the most keen reason to why you do what you do every day, why you get up, why you go so hard, you know what I mean? The things that have happened.
Purpose.
Yeah, your purpose.
I mean, I think we decide purpose. I think we decide what our reasons are. You know, some things I key in on, you know, just by studying the trajectory of my life is like to experience and to share with others, to teach, to be a bridge in instances to resources and experiences and knowledge. As well as, you know, a lot of times for me, you know, and even being able to do that is just knowing that, like, I don't know why a lot of times. A lot of times it's exciting for me to just be trying to figure out why. You know, like all these things happen for a reason in my life, and I'm looking at them objectively, and I'm like it's happened for a reason. You know, like why myself, and like wanting to find out why. Like, why am I comfortable being polyphasic and like going off 3 hours of sleep? Like, why am I? Because I believe our past informs our future, right? And so, like, why am I willing to give up these comforts? And I think the answer is forward, and like I can't get the answer now. The answer isn't until you know, time has passed and I look back and can say, you know, like, doing this had this effect on my life, and that'll be the why. I think we find out why afterwards a lot of times.
Man, I appreciate you, man. You're a wealth of knowledge, man, for sure.
You as well.
I thank you, man.
Brother. I appreciate this conversation.
For real, like iron sharpens iron, and I feel like that happened here today.
Sure.
But no, tell people where they can find you, Instagram or anything else you got going on.
So you can find me on all social medias at Hakim Dough. That's HAKIMDOUGH. You can also visit my website. There's a lot of great content there at HakimDough.com. Once again, that's HAKIMDOUGH.com. Also, you know, I think what's relevant to speak of in terms of this time is a streetwear and art gallery, restorative justice brand. Trap House Chicago exists on 79th and Cottage. The website is traphousechicago.us that I'm affiliated with. I think you should tap in. As well as, you know, if you have any philanthropic inkling and you care about young artists, you should definitely tap in with Art of Culture. These hoodies that I got on, there's a whole campaign. Each hoodie contributes to young artists being provided studio time at a professional recording studio for it to be mixed, mastered. So opportunities and things like that, I say just, you know, if we're aligned in the things that we care about, definitely tap in.
For sure, man. I appreciate you, and I thank you, brother.
Yeah, for sure, bro.
My man, 100 grand.
For sure.
Hakim Dough, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is Art Live Life Podcast, Episode 5. Appreciate you, Season 2. Hey, we got another one coming up next. Stay tuned.